Hello, hello. How's everyone doing today? Hi, this is Meena from Destination CEO. Welcome to another exciting episode of Mondays with Meena. I'm super excited today because we have a guest on our show very, very soon, but also because we're going to be talking about an extremely, extremely important topic. And that's really around resume scams and receiving unqualified advice. So since we're talking about unqualified advice, what makes me an expert to give you advice? Well, for those of you that know me that I have been in the industry of employment and recruitment for the past 20 years. I started my career in the nonprofit, and I worked within the nonprofit within the employment and community services. I worked as an employment resource consultant, and then I was also a job developer with the nonprofit industry. I also ran my own recruitment agency, worked for a recruitment agency. What made the recruitment agency stand out was we did not focus on particularly providing a perfect resume. We focused on skills marketing, and that really made our organization or our recruitment agency stand out amongst the many others. We looked for employers who looked for candidates with the right ethics and with the right skills and experience, regardless of where they have been or where they accrued that experience. So hopefully with 20 years of experience, also working for one of the largest colleges in North America, teaching job search and career connections, not to mention working within the one of the most amazing bridging programs for newcomers, which yielded 100% employed outcome. I think my profile and my resume speaks for itself. But let's talk about different scams and different kinds of advice that job seekers are getting. So, without further ado, now that you know a little bit about me, let me bring my guest on the show, Seena Foley. Hi, Seena. How are you?
Hi, Meena. I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Welcome to Mondays with Meena. Thank you so much for taking out the time from your busy schedule. We really, really appreciate you doing that. Seena, our topic for today, as you know, is scams um, and the kind of advice that you're getting from different coaches and different providers. So let's talk about your expertise. Why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself?
So, I'm a certified HR leader, and I've got about 20 plus years recruiting. I started when I was a baby, of course.
Of course.
And I've got, experience both in HR and recruiting, all corporate experience for myself on the recruiting end. And I've just sort of found now that more often than not, people are they're just reaching out on LinkedIn and they're applying for jobs, and I try my best to give them the advice of going forward. This might yield you more positive results. Some are welcome to it, and some aren't. And I know that sometimes people tell me, "Oh, somebody already looked at my resume and they told me it should be like this." Or an example was, 5-page resume. The longer, the better. The more detailed, the better for, a sales profile. Or some people are just thinking it's just the basics, just to get the call. You don't have to put everything on a resume. You don't have to put all those details of, KPIs, metrics, achievements. You'll talk about that when you get the phone interview. And it's not that simple anymore. Maybe that worked in the past, but when it's so competitive now, it's really important to understand the best way to present yourself to a hiring manager, and that to think about it critically, who's giving you this advice? And does their advice um, apply to you? You know, it's not going to be a one size fits all. And I know with candidates, it can be confusing. Somebody told me to put everything in on all I've ever done since high school. And someone told me a one-page resume is perfect. Somebody said, you know, more details is better. Somebody said less details is better. So I understand that it can be confusing, but as a person that's been looking at resumes for many, many years now, it's not so much me, the recruiter, that's kind of blocking your opportunity. It's the feedback from our hiring managers that's telling us what they want or don't want when looking at candidates. Sorry, I have like really weird shadows here from the sun. Sorry, I'll try my best to fix that. But anyways, I think that's the part people are forgetting, that a hiring manager, you have to think about it like this. A hiring manager has a problem. And the way to solve that problem is to hire somebody to work on those tasks. So you as a candidate have to present yourself online or on paper, on a resume, in a way that showcases how you can solve that problem. So using that one size fits all resume that you've been using for the last 10 years might not showcase it anymore relative to the competition out there that's vying for that same opportunity. And it is quite competitive right now in the market, in the Canadian market, is what I can speak to. And so if you've got a bad resume, there's not a lot of people that are going to have the extra time to call you and say, hey, what did you mean by that? Or could you explain a little bit more or whatnot, when they might have 100 other resumes to look at that doesn't require that additional call for clarification. So thinking about who's giving you that advice is really important. Everyone can tell you something, everyone has an opinion, but you know, does their opinion add value to the situation that you're particularly in? So I think that's what's really important. Meena, I know you have lots of people that reach out
Seena,
to you.
yes. Yes, I wanted to break down a little bit on this excellent advice you gave, so that we can very clearly, once and for all, and I'm sure it cannot be once and for all because we'll keep repeating this topic, but let's
Well,
understand.
yeah, that's okay though.
Yeah, and let's understand the role of HR versus the role of a recruiter, a corporate recruiter such as yourself. So you're a certified human resource leader, right? You're in terms of your background and your credentials, but within that, within human resources, there are various various sections and sectors, and you have the expertise of being a recruiter, a corporate recruiter, for the past 20 odd years. Let's say you started in diapers, but we're not getting there. What is the one thing or a couple of things that you look for as a recruiter when you're looking at a resume?
So, so as a corporate recruiter, that means that I work for a specific company and hire
Mhm.
directly for that company, as opposed to an agency recruiter. So many times people respond to me and say, can you pass my resume on to your clients for any future opportunities? I don't have clients. I have internal hiring managers that I work with. So, you know, if we traditionally don't hire um, a lot of business analysts or IT or marketing specialists, then chances are I might not have that opportunity for you. Um, but some of the things I look for, like my hiring manager's needs, right? Like, do you have the skills? Do you have some stability in your employment history? Or if you don't, but you still have good qualifications, I might still call you and ask you what happened. I mean, in today's society, there's a lot of things going on in the economy. So getting laid off is not your fault. It's okay. Just being able to explain your story. I think that if you're going for a job that is in a KPI metric oriented environment and you don't have details of your KPIs and accomplishments that you've had in past experiences, then you're making it harder for someone to call you and ask for further information. So looking at what the job is, what do you think that problem is the hiring manager has, and have you clearly outlined your ability to solve that through your previous experience and or education, right? So I'm looking at, you know, do I understand this profile and what kind of job they're looking for? And do I see transferable skills and hopefully some sort of semblance of consistent work history? Those are the main things I'm looking for. And then we could drop down to industry experience, knowing the details of a local market if you want to be in sales, or working with heavy equipment if you're a mechanic. That's specific to my employer and what we look for. But I think what I notice a lot of people are doing is, they don't update their resume. And it's like, why not? How much effort are you putting in this application? Did you research the company? Did you pay attention to the job requirements? Sometimes people used to say back in the day, oh, just apply. It's good that they see that you have initiative, or just apply and they'll call you. And what's happening right now is there's just not enough time to call everybody that's, seeing what sticks. So I'm looking for qualifications and experience and their ability to showcase their skill set. If you've never worked in our industry, then yes, how will you ever get experience? But if you have transferable skills and you've demonstrated that in some sort of way that makes sense to me, then sure, I'll give you a call. I look at actually every resume that when people apply to my jobs. So I don't use an ATS to screen people out with like keywords or whatnot. I will look at your resume. But if you make it really difficult for me to figure it out, then chances are I'm not going to call.
Thank you, Seena. That's really insightful. So the difference between an agency recruiter where they have multiple clients versus a corporate recruiter who also has multiple clients, but the multiple clients that she or he has are within that same organization. So understanding that particular organization's values and requirement is extremely important as you create your resume and reach out to a corporate recruiter such as Seena. Seena, your expertise has been typically within the construction industry. So when you say you look at each and every resume, could you give us an idea of approximately how many resumes, approximately on an average, would you receive per posting that you have?
Because I recruit for parts of the US and across Canada, every local market is completely different, but you're going to get over 100 applicants in Toronto or Calgary or Edmonton right now. Um, and then some markets, you're scrambling for 15 candidates. But, I think it's important. It's not that hard. I'm sorry, it's not hard. I think it's important for me to look at who I might have missed. Um, you know, we want the best to join our company, and maybe someone started an application but they didn't finish it. So I'm still going to look at their resume, and if I really am interested, I'll call them and say, hey, can you finish your application? I like what you started here. So it's, you don't lose points if you haven't done everything perfectly. It's a matter of you know what's going on in that market. Now, I don't just look at resumes all day. I still help my managers. I help candidates figure out how to apply online if they're having issues. I'm doing offer letters. I'm doing phone interviews, potentially scheduling interviews for other people. So, when people are kind of on LinkedIn and they're saying, I was ghosted, or why can't they get back to me, or what's going on? Everyone's just doing their best, and I know it's really hard for candidates. Um, but, I've never met a recruiter that's sitting around watching TV and not really caring about their candidates and just, you know, not doing their jobs properly. So everyone's doing their best with the skills that they have and the timelines that they have and the feedback from hiring managers that they get. Sometimes, we're chasing hiring managers. So you're feeling like, why won't I get back to you? Well, I'm trying to protect my brand here as an organization. And then behind the scenes, I'm chasing managers for feedback. So, and that's because the managers have a lot on their plate. Because remember, they have this problem, which is why they're hiring. So they need to hire someone to fix that problem for them. So they're scrambling to make ends meet with the headcount that they have. And if they only had one thing on their plate, which was hiring, then sure, they'd get back to me as quickly as I want them to. But realistically, they're juggling many things at once as well.
Very true. We all have 10 different things that we do on a daily basis. Seena, you're also a mentor with Destination CEO, and you have been mentoring for quite some time within various organizations and within various sectors. And you're one of those people that really go out of your way to help people. So we really, really appreciate you here at Destination CEO. But I'd love to know, what are some of the crazy stories you've heard as people reach out to you and share or show you resumes? So some crazy stories that you've heard, like you were just talking about the 5-page resumes.
So somebody told one of my candidates to include the logos of every company that she worked at and the link to the website. And when I talked to her about that and coached her on it, because I asked if she was open to it, and she was, is that there is valuable real estate on your resume. And to take that up with something that has nothing to do with you, you're promoting another company that you might not even worked for in 5 years, and their logo and their stuff. I'm like, this is about you as the candidate. So we don't need all of that information on your resume. I've had someone that had very limited details on their resume and wanted a leadership role. And when I talked to that candidate about it, I'm cognizant of the fact that, listen, if someone's not moving forward in a process, they're going to be upset. So he was not as receptive to my feedback. And so I backed off. I'm just trying to help people. I feel really bad that there's so many people looking for jobs in the market right now. And I want to help everyone I can. I can't hire everyone. Not everyone's right for my particular organization. But, what I found is it's always like little tweaks here and there that make the biggest difference. But if nobody tells you, then how do you know to make a change? And the challenge is, who do you go to? Who do you believe? Whose advice do you follow? Which is what we really wanted to, talk about today. I had somebody say to me on LinkedIn, like, hey, I'm looking for a job, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I gave them some advice. And he was basically like, thanks, but no thanks. I'm doing my own thing here. And, it's really hard to find a job and you don't understand. And I said, well, I have been out of work before. I understand. I'm just trying to help. So if you're not open to feedback, that's a skill set that you're demonstrating that's beyond your job search, right? Your ability to be resilient. How do you deal with rejection? Your ability to be open to feedback and to learn. Your ability to find information, like source the best places to find. Like, I didn't make up Google. You can Google a lot of things, and sometimes people are so focused on, let me just click apply so quickly without thinking about all the steps before that. Because once you hit apply, many ATSs don't allow you to redo your resume. It's in, and that's it. That's the application, that's the profile, until you apply for a different role again. So sometimes, rushing through the process can be a bigger issue.
That's very interesting. Seena, there are a few questions coming for you. So let's look at this one. Says, I received a call from a few organizations believing that I was matching the required skill set that they're looking for. And during the discussion, they mentioned they want to hire someone with Canadian experience. So how to overcome the situation. And this happens a lot with,
Yeah.
and thank you, Ritu, for bringing up this question. So this happens a lot with many candidates, specifically when they are newcomers. And I know that your expertise is
Mm-hmm.
working with newcomers as well. So what
Yeah.
advice would you want to give somebody with Ritu who is, whose background is in recruitment and just international recruitment, and she's new to Canada?
I think that it's a catch-22, right? Getting Canadian experience if no one gives it to you. It's just like
Yep.
new grads. You need experience, but how do you get experience if no one gives you the chance? So I know that that's challenging. I think, being able to demonstrate that you're upgrading your skills, understanding the Canadian market, the Canadian legislation, like for discrimination and things like that, best recruiting practices here, and maybe volunteering, getting something updated that's Canadian on your resume is what's gonna sort of showcase, hey, I've got something. If there's an audience that's desperate for that, right? Or requiring it. But for everyone that closes a door for you, there are still other employers that will open that door for you. So you might be running into roadblocks, but maybe it's about thinking outside of the box. Maybe you start as a recruiting assistant or a recruiting coordinator first, and then you work your way up to recruiter, which I know might be frustrating and seem unfair. And unfortunately, it seems to be a pretty common part of the immigrant story here. So I think that for every no, trust me, there are plenty of people with Canadian experience in recruitment that are not getting chances either because it's so competitive. So understanding your market first and foremost, and then getting that feedback to say, okay, if the roadblock is Canadian experience, maybe it's because they don't think I know the Canadian market, or I don't know, the human rights code, or things like that. Let me see what that is and how I could overcome those challenges by learning more, or volunteering, or starting at a smaller organization and gaining that experience before I kind of hit up the big players.
So I'm
So that would
glad
be
you
my
brought
advice.
that up. And you recently had a success story in the same lines with one of our participants. Would you like to share that?
No, you can share that story. I'm like, I don't feel like because I don't know why this is my success story. I feel like all these candidates are doing the hard work, and I'm just a
It's
teeny
our
tiny part of
success
it.
story. It's our success story, Seena. So, Ritu, specifically for you. So, when I started 20 years ago, I applied for an employment resource consultant position with a nonprofit. And yes, I didn't get the job because they said I didn't have Canadian experience. Now,
Right.
granted, if, I was a little
We'll be right back.
upset that I didn't get it. But I had to logically think what really was the role. And the role was to help newcomers with their job search challenges. And because I was facing the job search challenges, it didn't make me qualified enough to teach others. Of course, I started off as a receptionist and then I started building and learning, but I had to start off in that same organization as a volunteer for a short period of time to prove myself that I could do the job. Now, recently, we had a new grad from who had just completed her human resource certification from Humber College, and she joined our program, and she was getting the same challenges that, besides the fact that she had, the latest education or the updated education, she didn't have the Canadian experience. When we really, really broke down into it, there were many factors that were missing. And the first and the most important
Yeah.
factor was her resume, right? And that's why I said it's our success story, because working with Seena, that participant was able to work on her resume, address the specifics of, tweak the resume and address the specifics that were blocking her. And then using that resume, and she started applying for a recruitment coordinator position. And she will be, I'm really happy to say, but next week she'll be joining an employment agency as a recruiter, a junior recruiter in the supply chain industry. So it's been fruitful. So you are going to have blocks when it comes to Canadian experience or lack thereof. You know that it is against the law for anybody to tell you that, sorry, you don't qualify because you don't have Canadian experience. However, if they say we need you to have Canadian experience for this particular segment of the role, then it somewhere justifies. But a question you want to ask yourself is, if you're getting discriminated at that level, is this a company you want to be a part of? Are they going to appreciate what you bring to the table, right?
But
So,
sometimes, be careful of the narrative, because, is it just, hey, I don't have Canadian experience, so that's why I wasn't hired, if you don't have a strong resume, right? Sometimes that's just like, it's not the right fit. Like, there's these blanket statements that you hear as to why you're not getting the job that I know doesn't really help. But sometimes employers are protecting themselves by being as neutral as possible. It's hard to tell someone, hey, you interviewed really badly, or things like that. No one likes to have those awkward conversations. So for our candidate, for our Destination CEO success story, she could have said, like, look, I'm not getting anywhere. I have all this experience, and it's because I don't have Canadian experience, and that's my roadblock. But her roadblock was her resume and how she marketed herself. So, I think there are ways to get around it, and looking critically as to what is happening, right? Am I not getting calls even though I'm qualified? And then what happens? What am I going to do then? Am I going to just keep doing the same old thing and expect a different result? Or will I kind of look in the mirror and see, what can I change to better market myself so that people can consider my international experience? And also keeping in mind, very, very competitive market for recruiters right now. So it is difficult, I know. But there's other things that you can look at. So
thank
we've
you so
got
much.
something else here.
Yep.
So
Do you
could
want
you
to go ahead?
please suggest some icebreaking topics with recruiters, and also at the end, when they ask the candidates to ask questions, what kind of questions can a candidate ask? So, so my first thing I would say is, interesting, right? Our topic of qualifying advice. But for this person, have you ever Googled this? It's a very common question that comes about. What should I ask in an interview? So just, coming and watching Meena and I talk about it, you can also do this research. So icebreakers for recruiters, paying attention to where they work and who they are. You should always know your audience. And that's not specific to just recruiters, but when you're networking and meeting new people, be yourself and be genuine, but also be genuine and interested in the person you're reaching out to. So if you're not reading their profile or understanding who they are or anything, then the leading question of, are you guys hiring? Kind of falls flat. Because if you looked at where I worked, there's a website, and in many corporate websites, there is a career section, and then you can click and see if we're hiring and what types of positions do we have open. And that would show your ability to have intellectual curiosity, your research skills, so to speak, or fact-finding skills, and your ability to kind of figure it out before you come to me and say, hey, Seena, I know you work at company ABC, and I see that you don't have openings right now in this particular market that I'm in. Could we chat a little bit more about the types of things you look for candidates in that role? Sure. Okay. I'm open, because you know where I work and you've done a lot of work, so you've put in the work, so now I can put in the work. But when it's hey, here's my resume. Let me know if you're hiring. You just put all the work of your job search on my plate. I don't even know you. Why am I doing that? I'm already busy. And now you put more work on my plate without getting to know and understanding. So I think like you introduce yourself to anyone else in life in your profession, the same introduction format applies to recruiters. When recruiters ask if you have any questions, what are those questions? I don't know. What are you curious about? Are you curious about the size of the team? Are you curious about upward mobility and the ability to have promotions and grow your career with the company? Are you interested in the timeline of the hiring? Are you interested in how many interview stages there are? I can't tell you the questions to ask because I don't know what's important to you. So you got to figure out what you want to know. So many people are focused on, I just got to get hired. I don't even care. But organizations care. So figuring out what's important to you when you're looking for a career versus a job is going to come into play of doing a little bit of soul searching to see what's important. I really want to know about the corporate culture. How did you guys handle and maneuver through COVID? What were some of the biggest challenges? Is this a new position? Do you know why the last person left? What are they looking at a potential start date? If you know it, you may not know, but if you know, those are some questions that might be important to me, but I'm not a candidate looking for a job right now. So you kind of have to figure out what's important to you and then being able to ask those questions. But you should first figure out if you can find those answers yourself. I was on the company's website and I noticed this, and this. I'm curious about this. That's going to show way more initiative than just asking questions for the sake of asking without really bothering to figure out if those answers even matter to you. So that
Thank
would
you,
be my
Seena.
advice.
Thank you, Seena. I want to talk a little bit about scams and unqualified experts. We've had in Destination CEO, many people come to us that have been scammed. And as a job seeker, along with job search fatigue and frustration, sometimes we think, oh my God, you know what, this person's asking for $2,000. They must be really good. Let me just pay $2,000 and get the advice. Really, I want you to spend some time and research on that person who's asking you for that money. Okay, some steps that you want to take. First, this person is telling you that we're going to re-engineer your resume and you're going to start getting interviews. What does that re-engineering of your resume mean? And I want you to really think about this, okay? If somebody is going to ask you to lie on your resume and put fake experience, or going to give you fake experience to put on your resume, is that really going to help you move forward, okay? You're going to get caught, and when you get caught, you're going to fail miserably. So we've had somebody that lost $5,000 with an organization that told him to lie on his resume and that he's going to get multiple interviews. He got a couple of interviews and he got had an embarrassing situation out of it. And, he came to us and we asked him to take out all of that fake experience and again, go organically. And guess what? He did find a job in 4 weeks and was able to start within the 6-week time frame. So please understand the scams out there. If somebody is asking you to lie, you should really stop there and question the ethics of that person. Another thing, if you're looking at somebody promoting their program and putting in testimonials, and you cannot find the person, and this is another very common thing that participants that come to Destination CEO tell us, that they saw the program, they thought it was awesome, there were great testimonies. I said, okay, and did you authenticate those testimonies? And yeah, I tried to, but I couldn't find the person that was mentioned on that had given the testimonies. Well, if the testimony is fake and the person is not available, but even when you Google or on LinkedIn, okay, maybe one person's not there, two people are not there. But if everybody that has given testimonials is not there, then you know that the testimonial very well could be fake. So it is really, really important, just like how Seena was saying, research the company, understand the company, and then reach out to the relevant people, ask relevant questions. When you are looking for an expert or when you come across an expert, you want to authenticate where, what makes them stand out. Like with Destination CEO, you can see everybody that's been involved. You can look up the testimonials that is posted on our LinkedIn page, on our website. You can track it back to the person who's given and see the authenticity of those testimonials. And that's when you select the right expert. So Seena, you've had some very, very interesting cases where, like you said, the 5-page resume and the logos on the resume. If you had to pick an expert, what are some of the things that you would do, or perhaps the top 2 or 3 things that you would do in order to pick an expert in the industry if you were looking for some sort of advice or any sort of advice?
Um, hmm. What would I do? Well, listen, similar to what you just talked about, where the testimonials, you can track back and you can see it on our website. Someone would be like, "Oh, that's a lot of work though. I'm gonna bother." Yeah, because this person is someone you're gonna trust to advise you on your career or your LinkedIn profile or how to network or connect you with people or your resume. I mean, if that's not worth the time and effort to do your proper research, then what is, right? So it's going to take a lot of work. But I think, it's similar to when, I'll have an agency recruiter reach out to me about an opportunity. And I'll say, hey, listen, what was it about my profile that stood out to you that you feel would make me a good fit for your candidate? So I'm putting the work back. I need you to qualify yourself as to why you think I'm good, because my brand and my career is very important to me. So you say, Seena, I'm just looking for a job. Come on, like whatever. They're a recruiter. Okay. But have they placed several other candidates that are similar to your profile? In what field? How recent? What organizations? You know, the more details you ask of someone, when they're truthful, they have no problems answering those questions. But when they're not truthful, eh, they start to, fumble around here and there and gloss over this and get, really vague about things. Maybe that's not the person best to represent you and help you. Maybe you have to do your research because this is your career and because you want to get it right. So for some people, like, Meena had talked about last week or on the weekend, a one-page resume is a really great tool and it works for them. And for some people, it doesn't. Now, there's no why in life would we ever have a blanket statement that would apply to all of us in the exact same way, right? Excluding the fact that I would say, please don't lie on your resumes. Please have integrity. You cannot put a price on that. And we will find out. People find out when you're being dishonest or fudging the truth or, they'll never know. That's not, is that how you want to go through life? Just kind of lying your way and cheating corners to get what you need. There are ways you can do this without, falsifying things on your resume. But you really have to be able to, you have every right to ask questions or, and I would tell you that no one has asked me questions as much as I think you should, but I don't scam people, so I guess I don't really mind. But I'm asking you to do something that I've never seen really people do. Maybe they have in the background and that's how they got to me. But I think that it's really important to understand who it is you're talking to and what makes them an expert that can help you in your very specific experience. So that's one thing that you need to think about. If if I've never hired IT people, I am not an IT person, I know nothing about IT resumes, what makes me qualified to tell IT people how to update their profiles? I'm not. So you shouldn't listen. The same with like anything, medical resumes, legal resumes, whatever. If I don't know, then I don't know. And I think I have no problems. There are times when I'll say, guys, you should call Meena if you want, you're trying to get a job in education, then, go to Meena. She's the expert. I'm not that expert. I'm not a job developer. I've never worked in agency. I'm a corporate recruiter. I know Canadian experience or the Canadian market and the US market in pockets in the US. But when I don't know something, I have no issue saying I don't know. But candidates have to be able to figure out who they're talking to. One of the things I said to Meena is people just blindly believe without doing the research. But this is an important skill set. You've got to do your research, and this will apply in your life, and this will apply in your career. So if you can't do it at the job search stage, how can you tell me you can do it in your job? So I think really qualifying people, what's their background? You can look on LinkedIn how long someone's been in recruiting. If they've been doing it for 2 months, they're still learning too. But if they've been doing it for 2 months, but the rest of their career has been, in industrial sales, and they're hiring industrial sales reps, they've got some real qualifications here. They've got some credibility now. So you can ask them about that. But you've got to do your research before you just blindly believe people, because if everyone had good intentions, there would be no scams out there. Unfortunately, there's scams out there. So you got to be careful. And you don't need to pay thousands of dollars for someone to help you with your resume. And you don't need to buy your way into a job. So, really be careful about that kind of advice that you're getting. And there's nothing wrong with asking those questions. And if anyone was ever offended by that, that would be a red flag to me if they are offended by your questions. Okay, so we've got something else. Thanks for sharing your experience. Okay, excellent. Well, hey, thanks, Ebony. I appreciate that. So Meena, what are some of the stories that you've heard?
Well, a crazy story was when I started. So I wanted to go back to some of the advice I received when I was job searching. The first time I was sitting in a resume workshop, this was 20 years ago when I was starting my career, and there was this guy, another participant in the workshop, who said that, oh, you know how to trick the ATS system? You take the job posting and decrease the font to the smallest size and put it in white and paste it, copy and paste it on your resume. So this way you have 100% 100% tracking,
Like a
right?
match, right?
Like a match, exactly. And I thought to myself, have you done it? And he said, yes. And I said, and you're still here. And I thought, okay, you know what? I'm going to try it. I tried it. Did it get me anywhere? No. A functional resume, which was a one-page accomplishment-based resume, what got me started in my career in Canada. And the reason why I bring up this story is many things happened ever since, and different ATS systems. Like there are three major kinds of resumes. One is a chronological resume, where you write down your experience from reverse chronological stance. And the old ATS systems, if you look at it, I don't know if things have changed, but before, when you applied at Workopolis or when you applied at Sheridan College, or you had to upload your resume, but on the other hand, you also had to chronologically type down literally all of your experience. So that was the old type of resumes. Then there was functional, where employers knew if you had a functional resume, means 90% of the time you didn't have Canadian experience, right? So putting in accomplishments and what you can do or what you have done. And then there was the combination, where you've got your accomplishments right on the top, and then you've got your chronological resume. So there are these three different kinds of resumes. And then, now as we are growing and we are evolving, the value of resume is really your marketing tool to get you that interview. It's that interview that's going to get you the job. But in order to get that interview,
Mhm.
you really need to have a good, strong resume. And when you make a good, strong resume, then customizing it is about tweaking. Okay. So recently on a TikTok, I saw a resume expert saying that, hey, I want to tell you a hack. Just copy and paste the job posting and on your resume in the smallest font, and you're going to definitely match. And I thought, oh my God, that was 20 years ago. And if this resume expert is talking about it right now, I question her, uh, her authenticity. We've had scams where, people, fake employers are posting jobs, and when applicants are applying, because they fake a uh, very vague position. And when people apply, they actually contact those people and say, but you have the skills, but you don't have, certain aspects which is going to make your resume stand out. So if you are going to pay us this amount of money, we'll help you recreate your resume and be able to present you to our client. That presentation never happens, but that's a scam. So
Yeah.
very important is, if it's too good to be true, it's probably fake. Not all the time, but many times. Everything that
You
good
know,
as is not.
Meena,
Hmm.
I was going to say too, when you talked about the different resume types, again, Google is your friend. If you say, how do I know which one? Just Google it. Look up resume types, common resume types, the best resume types, the most effective resume type. It's just a formatting thing, but really, content matters when you're able to showcase how you solve a hiring manager's problem. And for us at Destination CEO, we believe that that's an accomplishment based resume. So sometimes what I've seen people do is every job that they've ever done since high school is on their resume, and they've got 20 plus years experience. And it's a laundry list of all the job posting or job descriptions, right? I did these tasks and these tasks, and I'm like, this is not relevant. What is this showcasing? It's not, your resume is not a laundry list of every job you've ever done. It is to showcase what, building a career potentially, like what are the strengths that you're trying to showcase. So maybe that job from 1982 doesn't need to be on your resume anymore because your career has evolved so much that the things that have happened in the last 5 to 8 years are what you really want to showcase. So it doesn't mean that things haven't mattered. You can, your story is your story, but just like in life, we all evolve. So maybe what I did when I was 5 doesn't matter as I tell you my story about what I did when I was 25. And I think that's a common mistake people do, but it's really, and I think another scam, I heard is when you apply and then you've got to kind of put in your information confidential, like your SIN number or your social security number, and it's like, no, you don't need to be supplying that anytime up front before you've accepted a job. But if something, like she said, feels too good to be true, you can do your research. So you see this posting, right? And is it real? I don't know. Let me try and find it other than on Indeed or wherever they put it. Let me try and find it on the corporate website. Let me research if they have a real website. Let me see what I can do. Just do some digging, right? Like this is the work you have to do for yourself, right? Just like the work you need to do when you prepare for interviews, the work you do when you're, getting your resume ready. This is a part of the process. And it's not saying, why do I need to bother because that company's making me jump through hoops? You do it because it's important to you, because your success matters to you. It's just going to matter to you, should matter to you more than anyone else. So, excuse me, it should be worth your time to do the research, making sure that it's valid and feels good. And if you're not sure, like anything, if you're not sure, talk to someone. Talk to someone else and say, hey, there's a situation. I'm not sure. What do you think about it? And I'm not saying maybe your best friend, but maybe someone that seems a little more neutral. Say, hey, I'm concerned about this. What do you think? Right? There's a lot of organizations that are there to help and that will, like Destination CEO, but there's a lot of different organizations that you can kind of just, take 5 minutes and ask someone for their advice to help you maneuver through something. And if you don't know, can you please just help me understand? I'm a bit concerned if this is fraudulent or this seems fake. What do you think? I mean, don't be afraid to ask someone for help. That's really important because I think the scams happen so easily because no one talks about it. So they get away with it.
Yeah,
So,
and the scams happen because there is a need. You have decided there is a need. Right now with COVID, a lot of people are laid off, and people are taking advantage of it. So that's why
mhm.
scams happen. Is you know there is a need. People are taking
Yeah.
advantage of that need. So watch out. I want to do a big shout out to Peel Halton Workforce Group. They've created this amazing tool. And if you follow me, you must have seen the post that I posted last week. And one of the things that I love about it is the job map. So they've taken Google Maps and they've incorporated it in their resource tool. You can put in the location like Mississauga, Brampton, Halton, and you can see how many companies in that radius are hiring and what positions they're hiring for. And you can apply directly within those companies. So I'm going to put that link in the comments section. I hope that you can check it out. And don't be afraid to contact companies directly. You could use Google
Mhm.
Maps, see the companies that are in your area that you're interested in working for. Reach out to those companies and say, hey, I researched your website. I love the work that you do. This is who I am. And I'd love an opportunity to apply for a role within your organization or to learn more about the projects you're involved in or how I could start my career within your organization. So please take the time to do research. As a wrap up, I'm going to say that ask questions. If you're not sure and your research is not yielding the result that you want to, then reach out to people. Ask relevant questions. Don't just mindlessly give your money away to somebody thinking that they're going to give you the answer, because many a times that answer is not there. It's a scam. Okay. And who you're asking is also extremely important. What is their credibility? Have they helped other people in the past? What have they been doing in their career that has yielded those results? A couple more questions have come up. So let's, hey, Navjot, it's great to see you here. Um, see a lot of difference between the way early stage startups hire versus how big companies do it. Is there an approach that works with startups, which would usually work with some of the bigger and more established companies? So I guess I can touch on the startup and Seena can touch on the established
Sure.
companies. As far as the startups are concerned, and I've worked with hundreds of them, in fact, specifically in the IT sector, um, they're really interested in the person's skills. So if you are to approach a startup and say, these are my skills, and this is what I want to do for your organization, they are more than willing to give you an opportunity. In fact, we tried that with my almost 200 students at Humber College. And, if you go down to Liberty Village, I would challenge you that every other IT company, which is a startup in Liberty Village, will have one of my grads working over there. So it's a complete skill marketing based or skills based industry. And they're looking for people who are skilled and hungry to make a difference, to prove themselves. Seena, what do you think that big organizations look for?
So I think with a startup, fit and being aligned with the vision of what they're trying to build and coming in sort of from and working your way up from ground zero is really, really critical. Um, those are not bad characteristics for a corporation at all. But I think what needs to, for corporations, we first need to understand your skills and your qualifications specific to what we do in our world. So solving that one very specific problem for a hiring manager versus, hey, startup, I really am aligned with what you believe in. I really believe in your vision. I want to come on board and add some value. Like, here, let me be a part of this. With a corporation, things are a lot more structured. So that opening is very specific. Like, I need this opening, and this is what I need for that specific opening. There might not be an opening for a startup, but you could still kind of showcase how you can make a difference to a startup. And there's way more flexibility in hiring at a startup than in a corporation where you've got to apply online. You've got to kind of go through, maybe there's an assessment, a part of that hiring process. There's a formalized, you do a phone screen with a recruiter, and then they submit to a hiring manager, and then you do it in person, and then maybe there's 3 or 4 levels. And it might be a little more structured in that sense, but we've already built it. We don't need to reinvent the wheel here. So for corporations, it's showcasing that you can solve that problem based on the posting that you're looking at. Whereas an opportunity at a startup, you can pitch yourself and say, hey, I want to be a part of what you do. There might be way more room to say, yeah, we want you on the team. Whereas budgets, hierarchy, job codes, compensation, all of that things play a part in the hiring process for corporations.
Thank you,
Ooh, this
Seena.
one's a tough one. Yeah, interns. That's a tough one because of COVID. I feel for the interns. We had to pull back, some of our internship program at my own organization due to the challenges with COVID. Hard to tell in a crystal ball how the markets will continue to evolve with COVID and how that affects openings. Depending on the industry, you got to look at the industry that you want to intern at. So if you want to intern at a logistics company, they've been quite busy during this pandemic, and there might be opportunities for interns in that avenue. And pitching yourself as an intern would be really important versus waiting for internships to be posted. But if you're wanting to intern at a company that did a ton of layoffs because of COVID and they're really struggling, then that might not be the best strategy. So, like in the common theme of what we talk about today, doing your research is really, really important. I think it could be a tough winter for interns. I would agree that that might be hard in the spring, and hopefully things will start to look better for the fall internships that come up. But again, no crystal ball here. I just think you've got to think outside of the box now that the market is so difficult.
Thanks. And Vishwesh, what I'm going to say is just how we answered Navjot's question. Think outside the box. Let's say you are an IT professional. Don't just look at IT companies. Look at companies that are outside from the IT zone where not many are targeting, like the logistics industry. What problems can you solve with your technical skills in the logistics industry? So think outside the box and see where you bring the most value and reach out to them, pitch them. Large organizations like the banks, like, organizations that have already a set up internship culture, they've started their hiring. And usually for winter interns, they would hire a semester before. So they would have already done their hiring last semester. Now they're hiring for the summer interns. So you may, not 100% sure because of COVID, you may have lost your opportunity for a winter internship, perhaps with a large organization, but that does not mean that you've lost your opportunity to get an internship. So pitch, go out there, like Seena said, research and reach out. That's all you can do. And trust me, don't look at it as internship. Look at it as a job. And I'm sure if you go with it with the right focus and showcase what you can do, your answer is going to be more positive than not.
I'm just going
So,
to add one quick thing, Meena, just one quick
yes.
thing for the students out there. You need an internship when it's always going to be about what you need. It's going to be difficult. How do you solve and add value to an organization? You're still green, but you have a lot to offer. You've got progressive, you're willing to change, be adaptable. You've got probably amazing computer skills and marketing and social media. So remember that organizations also really benefit from interns. So it's not that you just need this, but you're, again, always solving a problem for an organization. And even, when you pitch it yourself, it's a problem they might not even know they have. And then you would be the perfect solution for them. So when you're doing your research and when you're pitching, these are the things you have to think about. How do you add value to an organization? So always research, right? Lots of research, lots of, really qualifying who you're talking to, and why is this the right thing for you?
Thank you, Seena. Usually the show is about half an hour, but it was Seena and Meena, so it had to go double. Thank you all
That's right.
for being here. I hope that we were able to answer many of your questions. And if you still have questions, you know how to get in touch with us. I hope that now, before you go out and spend your hard-earned money, you are going to do some research. And there are a lot of us out here to support you in this journey. So reach out to us, ask your questions, and follow up if you have to. Sometimes we receive a lot of emails and we're unable to respond in a timely fashion. It's okay to follow up. We don't get upset. It's just we're trying to catch up, and sometimes, our daily work takes over our catch up. So thank you. And again, thank you, Seena, and look forward to
Thank you,
seeing you
Meena.
again. Have a great one. Take
Thanks.
care. Wish you all a wonderful start of this beautiful week. Thank you. This is Meena from Destination CEO.